think about like the dislocation right now in the market where it seems like stocks are, relief rallying, if not really rallying, but the economic data we keep getting is going down, right? 26 million Americans unemployed, 4.8% contraction in Q1 for the economy. Like it just seems like the underlying data and the actual reality on the ground is way worse than the stock market, which seems to just be going in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I think usually when you have scenarios like this where the government comes in and intervenes, it drives the wealth gap, right? And so I think like the current like rally, broadly speaking, is asset inflation, right? And so there is a massive effort to inflate the value of assets, and you just can't fight that, right? And so that's where you're going to see this stock is up or doing X, Y, and Z or doing well or getting these funds while this guy is unemployed, et cetera, right? And so those who own stock X, Y, and Z do well or bought it at the dip. This guy still doesn't have a job, right? And so you see that divergence in unfortunately in times like this with the government action, it usually drives the wealth gap. It doesn't help close it.
Yeah, it feels almost like it reiterates the point that the stock market's not the economy. It's just the central bank actions or representation of that. How do you think about the bailouts and that government intervention, kind of the next step of that?
I'm generally, I'm not on the camp that the government should do nothing, but what the government is doing, I am generally 100% against. There's a lot of companies that, a lot of people have the idea like if this airline fails, then we won't have an airline. And that's just not true, right? When somebody goes bust with their house, the house doesn't disappear. Just a new owner shows up, right? That guy disappears. And so, with the airlines, these owners that created this highly leveraged position, right, spend all their capital buying back their stock, didn't think about the robustness of the stability, which is okay. I'm not even going to mock that. It's okay if you want to do that, but you have to accept the risk when something goes wrong in a leveraged scenario. You go bust. You don't get your executive bonus. You get fired. New management comes in. Bondholders get smashed. They should have been paying attention, and the equity guys get wiped out. But the airlines are still there, and somebody will gladly come in, put in some capital, and run it, right? And so what we've done is we've removed that, right? We removed that punishment, and I'm against it. I would much rather have all that money just be direct deposits into the individuals' pockets, right? Which actually helps close the wealth gap, and then let that money trickle up into whatever investments or whatever is out there, right? But now we're flowing money into concentrated pockets of businesses and industries, right? We're picking winners and losers and letting them distribute the money as they see fit.
Yeah, it feels like what I know about you. I think that you're very much kind of the United States is the best country in the world, and we have a significant advantage around the American dream and kind of that belief that like we're all entitled to move up in the world. But it feels like when you start to take away the impact of risk taking, right? The actual negative side effects of when you take risk and it doesn't work your way, you change the incentive structure, right? And it almost feels like you start to create this social safety net or corporate safety net that really almost incentivizes more bad behavior, more over leveraging if you know someone's going to bail you out every time.
Yeah, and it also it hurts other guys and other competitors who don't get picked. Maybe I have Joe Upstart Airlines and I'm like, hey, the leverage ratio is pretty crazy and their customer service is shit. And you're building up your customers, right? I don't know what airline you are. Call it Spirit, but not Spirit, because a lot of people hate Spirit. But you know what I mean? And you're like, great, this is my shot to take over. Like, I'm going to get those slots at Newark, and I'm going to get those slots at IAH, and my airline's going to grow. But here comes the government with $7.8 billion or $72 billion. It's that airline, and you get squashed while they get rewarded, right? And so not only does the incentive structure change, it just solidifies incumbents, right, who probably shouldn't be there, right? And it crushes the American dream for a lot of people. A lot of people don't realize there's people organizations, entrepreneurs, upstarts, right, coming out to compete who are not getting the billions of dollars, right? And now it makes their job even harder, almost impossible in certain cases, right?
You're almost in a situation where the government's playing kingmaker to some degree, right? They're
Correct.
literally, picking winners. And the other data point that I saw recently that just blew my mind was there's a lot of workers that are asking to be fired from various companies because they can make more on unemployment with the stimulus kind of beef up in the unemployment insurance than they will at their normal job. And it feels like that's just one, not something that I ever would have thought was possible. But two, it's kind of sad to see, right? Where people are literally saying, hey, fire me from my job because I literally can make more money on unemployment than you're paying me to actually show up here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm a fan of like some sort of floor UBI, right? I'm at the point where I think that survival, just basic survival, should not be dependent on a job, right? All the land is taken. There's no living off the land and farming and all that kind of stuff. So you're kind of forced into the structure where if you want to survive and eat, you have to have a job, right? And I think a lot of people will culturally say, yeah, but of course. But it wasn't that way, right? That's not how America started. You did not have to go work for somebody, okay, in order to survive. Most people work for themselves, right? Went out in the West, settled, grew their crops, whatever. That is gone. You can't do that. And so there's this force element to work. Like you must work or else you cannot survive, right? And I think that should be eliminated, right? And I'm not saying people should be lavish. I'm saying like at the poverty level, right, where you can survive. And I think that work should be for thriving. That being said, these levels of unemployment, where I'm paying you, I don't know if that's an indictment on unemployment or what they're paying the employees, but I think that's a little bit absurd.
Yeah, to me, I think that was the part that I took away from it, right, was the fact that the wages that a lot of folks that are obviously asking to be fired, it has to be so low, right? It's not the $15 an hour type thing. You got to be talking about people who are probably making $8 to $10 an hour in today's environment. It's sad, frankly, right? But that's
And those are people that like, hey, I would rather work on my play or my theory of physics or whatever it is they could work on if their survival was taken care of, right? If you knew you were going to survive, I think that would unleash a lot of creativity and entrepreneurship out of the populace and not force them to work at McDonald's versus working on this brilliant cure for X, Y, and Z that's going to take 5 years, right? And so that's the crushing thing like people are missing about like having a floor and eliminating work from survival is you actually unleash a ton of risk-taking and entrepreneurship and you unlock the creativity of many people, right? There's so many people who are in soul-sucking, low-paying jobs just because they got to buy ramen noodles and beans. And if they had their ramen noodles and beans taken away, they would say F you to that job, right? And work on whatever they were working on, which I think society would benefit from.